By now I'm sure you've heard that AI large language models are quite proficient programmers. But did you know that WebGPT, a custom GPT for ChatGPT Plus, can not only build your creative projects, like a video game for instance, but also deploy it for you to a no-code interactive playground? Utilizing these external actions paired with an extensive proprietary backend infrastructure, WebGPT frictionlessly connects the newest GPT-4o model from OpenAI to a host of agentive AI backend workers to create this semi-autonomous, human-in-the-loop build experience like you're seeing here. I simply threw down the challenge for the LLM to build me an original game titled Flying Purple People Eater, and the WebGPT agents scoped out the project, designed it, implemented it, and spit me out a convenient playtesting link where I can preview my game, all autonomously with no downloads, installations, or additional configurations needed. Now, its first attempt isn't bad, but there are some inaccuracies here. The first thing I notice is that the player character is moving in discrete units, one step per key press. This, of course, isn't ideal, and a smoother press and hold movement would be much better. So I'm simply going to provide this feedback to the LLM in natural language. Now, as I was doing so, I actually noticed that WebGPT pointed out that this movement mechanic was in fact a bug and needed to be fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and just revise my feedback to agree with the LLM. And I'm also going to ask it to introduce some enemy spawning logic so that it's a little bit more varied and less mundane. And after implementing my changes, it goes ahead and summarizes that changelog and lays out all of its next steps, expanding on some of the additional enhancements that it plans to make. And before testing our new build, let's just scroll back up and review one last time which code changes we are looking to test, which would be the continuous player movement as well as some enhanced enemy spawning and movement mechanics. And sure enough, the player is moving a lot smoother, and there's a lot more variance in our enemy spawn logic as well. Now, upon reviewing some of the next steps that the LLM had laid out for itself, I honed in on these two in particular, the creation of distinct enemy variants with unique visual and behavioral traits. So let's go ahead and greenlight those changes with just natural language prompts. And you'll see WebGPT specs out in greater detail the difference between our zigzag enemy and our fast and straight, and then it proceeds with an implementation plan as well. Just fast forwarding through the 3-step multi-turn AI agent build process that takes place behind the scenes, and we should have the new build of our game with our latest new enemy types introduced. Let's take a look. Now, in this step, the LLM introduced a regression bug, a runtime error. And by the way, humans aren't perfect either, so let's try not to be too judgmental here. One of the advantages to building with WebGPT is that it actually can connect your LLM directly to your error console to assist in the AI's ability to debug and fix any errors that happen to be introduced. And because of this advantage, the LLM successfully identifies where the problem is, understands it, communicates that to the end user, and then immediately pivots to implement a plan to address this problem. And after summarizing its latest round of changes, as well as updating the overall project plan, it spits us out another updated playtest link. And now, real quick, this particular change was addressing that particular runtime error, but if you recall, the original change that we were looking to test was the addition of those new enemy types, the zigzag, as well as the straight and fast enemy. And as you can see, there definitely are now zigzagging enemies, as well as faster and straighter moving enemies as well. The problem is they all look the same as the default enemy type, so I'm simply going to go back and communicate as much to the LLM and give it another stab at this. And you'll notice that this was a much more straightforward iteration. Most of the new enemy type traits were in fact implemented that last round, with the minor exception of the visual appearances. And lo and behold, we have zigzagging triangles as well as very fast squares now added to the list of enemy types. Now, to be fair, this is a rather rudimentary shmup, shoot-'em-up style arcade game right now, but recognize this took me all of 4 minutes so far to build, with absolutely no coding knowledge whatsoever and just natural language instructions. That's pretty impressive. Alright, so the core gameplay loop is complete, and the difficulty is rather challenging at times, so I'm going to go ahead and add a power-up to our player turret. It should be represented by a hollow green orb, as well as a power-up timer that counts down from 10 in the top of the screen. Now, I see the green power-up. It's not hollow, it is in fact filled in, but notably it does function. It starts a countdown timer in the top left corner, and my bullet spread has increased to 3 rounds. But for accuracy's sake, I'm going to give the LLM one more final round of instructions. I'm going to ask it to hollow out that power-up orb, as well as reduce the number of them that are spawning on the screen and the spawn rate. I just feel like it's going to be too easy with that many of them. And just fast forwarding for brevity one more time, let's take a final look at our summary of changes, and let's playtest the final build of the game. All 3 of our varying enemy types are there. We have single round shot to start. There are not a ton of power-ups. There's our first one, and it is in fact kind of challenging to reach. That means that the game is pretty well tuned, I think. I'm going to be able to get this one, though, and confirm that it still works, and it does. Power-up countdown timer expires. We return back to single round shot. And while there is no longer an overabundance of power-up spawning, there are more. You can use WebGPT today in the ChatGPT Custom GPT store, and it's going to be coming to other platforms as well in the near future. I'll also make sure that I post a link to Flying Purple People Eater to the comments or the thread or the description for wherever this video is posted. So thanks for watching.